I now want to jump into the segment of the show that we call Four More, and that's where we ask you the same 4 questions that we ask all of our guests, rapid fire format. And then the more part of the Four More is where we're going to let you tell us where our listeners can get in touch with you and find out more about you and your business. Sound good?
Awesome. Let's do it.
Okay. I'll take question number 1. So, Elliott, what was your very first or your very worst job, and what lessons did you take from it that you're still using today?
Yeah. I won't say the company name. It was a company that rounded up a bunch of high school folks or sort of wayward souls and put them on painting jobs on houses and promised, $14, $15 an hour. And you go up here, you're painting your first house, and you're on the ladder, and you're feeling like, man, I can't wait to make these $14. But when you actually realize what it was a job-based payment program that only netted $14 if the company assessed the job correctly and the manager of the job allocated the dollars on the job appropriately to you. So I ended up getting sort of my first indication of what I was going to get paid, and it was like $4 an hour, not that 14. So I'm fighting bees and up on ladders. So needless to say, I stepped away from that job.
For good reason. That is crazy.
Yeah, crazy. It was crazy.
Oh my gosh. I have 2 different questions I want to ask for the second one.
Okay.
So Jay, I might just make this a part A and a part B. I'm curious to know, Elliott, when did you first realize, because you've mentioned that you've started a couple businesses in addition to Guardian, when did you first realize that you had that entrepreneurial itch?
I think it was right after finishing Harvard Business School when I had an amazing job in Boston doing business acquisitions with some just amazing people. But for a lot of reasons, I didn't enjoy Boston. I think you guys have made some decisions to get to warmer places. I had moved my family from Michigan here to Atlanta. So I moved to Atlanta, and there just weren't as many opportunities in the field that I wanted to embark upon here for me to go get a job. And so as a result of me choosing some personal things in my career that mattered, it sort of forced my hand to be more entrepreneurial. So probably a year or 2 after Harvard Business School, my hand was sort of forced. And I think for me, I wanted to create a life that I wanted to live in. I had been in many jobs where, as I looked up at the partners, I didn't want that life. So doing well at this current job is going to put me there. I don't want to be there. I want to create a machine I actually want to drive. So that was sort of when I knew.
Love that. Love that. And so the follow-up kind of part B to that question is, what is the best piece of advice that you have for other entrepreneurs or other small business owners that you haven't shared yet today?
Yeah, so it's a piece of advice that a mentor gave me before I went to business school, and it felt so trite. Like, oh, that's easy. But it really does determine how I look at businesses on the first pass. The advice was, when you look at business opportunities, the things you have to look at are sort of profitability of the business, right? Growth of the business, and ownership. How much do you own? And really, it was funny because it was before business school. And then when I went to business school and learning all these fancy things, the price of a stock, you know what drives that price? Profitability, growth, and then your share is the ownership, right? And so it becomes such a great sort of simple way to evaluate. Like, I don't want to be in a 5% margin business. I don't want to be in a business that grows 1% a year. Those are things that I can sort of figure out easier now.
Love that.
Great.
Love that. Okay. Question number 3, and I know you've already mentioned 3 books that you love: How to Win Friends and Influence People, Buy Out, and then Buy, Then Build. And we actually had Walker on the show a couple months ago. He was fantastic.
Oh, excellent.
Are there any other business books, or any books? I'm not going to limit it to business. What's your favorite business or book out there that you would recommend to our listeners that they may not have read?
Sure. For me, this is going to be a bit personal, and that's just how we roll. So there's a book about Reginald Lewis, who's the first Black man to buy $1 billion business. And he came from meager beginnings and went to an HBCU and kind of finessed his way into Harvard Law School. Worked on Wall Street as a lawyer for 10 years and then acquired a business. But it took him many years, and it's one of the best books about sort of overcoming adversity and making it through some very tough waters to sort of be successful, and then to sort of understand how, like, your first success can lead to future successes. And the book has a weird title. It's Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? So people tend to have all this reaction to the book. Oh my gosh. And I'm not getting into that broader discussion. I think we have enough understanding of diversity now to realize that we all should have an ability to have some fun. So Reginald Lewis's book, Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun, would be the other one I would recommend.
And the book is both about Reginald Lewis and he wrote the book. Is that correct?
He had another author write, I think, the most of it. I forget. I've met the guy who wrote the book,
Blair Walker.
I can't think of his name, and that's terrible.
Blair Walker. And I didn't know that off the top of my head. I'm actually looking it up right now. So
computers are so great. And I met
awesome.
Reginald Lewis's wife, Lloyda Lewis, at an event in Chicago last year, and it was just earth changing because no matter what color creed you are, it's really, how can you have some fun? Whether you're a woman and you're not the typical buyer, whether you're Indian or Asian or short or poor or not from sort of rich beginnings, it kind of walks you through all of that.
Why should white guys have all the fun? How Reginald Lewis created a $1 billion business empire. And for anybody who wants to get a link to that, we'll have it in the show notes.
Awesome. Okay, cool. And the fourth question is a fun one. What is something, Elliott, in your personal or work life that you have splurged on along the way that was totally worth it, whether it's a material thing or an experience or whatever you consider a fantastically awesome splurge?
I splurge on vacations. That's where I kind of overspend. And so for me, finding really cool boutique hotels, either in major cities or in the mountains, is sort of my thing. And so, some people have like a bag or some luggage or like a car. I didn't really go there, but I'll find kind of fancy places to stay in the mountains or outside of cities. I just love the charm of a boutique hotel. It's such an independent instance of somebody putting together this perfectly curated thing for people to enjoy. And I get a kick out of finding those unique places.